Uh, I would want to start with Ushwa on the last point that Anant made. When he talks about individual contribution to the positive impact that each of us can have on the condition that we are in. You gave us the example of teaching someone, which could be a trait that you have. Would it necessitate that all of us think a little more about what we can do in this time for people who are have-nots, for people who are working on daily wages or who are working in shops which were non-essentials, garments, makeup, small stores of any kind, which are still not allowed to work very often. So those guys must be going through a difficult time. Is it necessary that people who are privileged like we are put in a little extra effort? And if yes, is there a method to the help that one can look at? Not to advise others, but in case if you had to pick something up for yourself, are there little things that you did in your mindset change or in the way you deal with it on a daily basis?
I don't think it's about a change at all in the mindset or in the way we behave and what we need to do to help. I think we as people need to understand the value of self-assessment and the importance of social infrastructure. So if personally me, I know what I need to do in my life and how I can help others around me, that is my self-assessment. And if what I can do to help the others around me actually improves the way people around me behave with one another, how connected they are, how secure they are, how their mental health is, or any one of these other small facets of social infrastructure, that itself will go a very long way. And the truth is that at least in India, around me, I don't see enough of social infrastructure. When I moved into the apartment that I lived in right now 10 years ago, I didn't even have streetlights outside. I didn't have neighbors that I could speak to outside my apartment. My own apartment was 50% empty. So just the lack of people willing to connect with one another was a problem at that time. And since then, there has been a large improvement. But that improvement has come over a series of 10 years. And I can now today say that yes, I feel more secure socially living over here because I no longer hear of people getting robbed at night, or there is just a larger amount of money in the area. So people even living outside my apartment who are living in a village, technically what I live in is a village, and this apartment complex is part of that village, and it's right in the middle of the city, and it connects between two city hubs. And this village area doesn't necessarily have all the infrastructure that the rest of the city has. But this village area has my apartment, and the people in this apartment not only provide jobs, but the education level itself has increased over here in the past 10 years. Now, in the span of 10 years, there has been a lot of improvement that has happened. And I can go into detail about it. But the truth is that along with the influx of me, my privilege, my family, and many families like me, almost 1,000 of us, there has been a systemic change in the behavior amongst people that lived here for even 3 decades. And that itself is what we need right now. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen with just one small action. It's never about just one small action. It just starts there. It starts with you seeing what your neighbors need, you seeing what people around you need. And then it moves on to a systemic improvement in the quality of life, and however that can happen. That doesn't necessarily mean a value change or a mind change in my head. That is something as people that we have to learn as a skill, and that learned skill is one of the hardest things to teach. Because for you to go from thinking about yourself to thinking about you and your surroundings, That itself is a leap that not everybody who studies even understands. So there is a flaw, and this time is the best time to utilize that gap in education and actually improve on that one facet, and it'll clear your mind on a lot of things. I think a lot of clarity on what most people my age want to do with their lives, or the kind of questions that they ask, the kinds of things that they dream of doing and in their future. It all comes from that simple leap from what can I do for myself to what can I do for everyone around me that'll make me happy.
Okay. I would break it into two parts and ask you a question. Anand, do you want to make a comment or something on that?
Um, Actually, in relation to your question regarding how we could make a difference for uh, the small scale workers, I've found, and as a personal anecdote during this quarantine, that many of, if you're fond of writing and if you have a certain degree of expertise in whatever area, organizations and companies like historical archives that can't right now go out there and do their research are welcoming online publications from the public, and they do pay you token payments for the time you invest in writing for them. So what I did was publish some online articles during this lockdown, and a fraction of that money I do dedicate to causes, because there are plenty of charities online that are available for the workers. And I recently donated to a charity that guards against domestic violence, because there's a high incidence of domestic violence during this quarantine period where people aren't really getting out and are staying at home. So I think in these small ways you can make your difference. But as Ushwa rightly said, it's never or only about that small difference that you make, although that's a starting point. Because me donating to a charity isn't going to solve the systemic issue of offering dignity to workers or ensuring minimum wage. So, sort of tying up to what I said earlier with regards to the power you have in your own agency, you can control your own actions. You can't control those of others. So, do whatever you can while you're at it.
Okay. Uh, I would, point taken. I would want to continue on my thought that I had for regarding what Ushua said. One part of what she mentioned was incidental learning upliftment of the society because of the way they shifted and a certain sense of modernization, a certain sense of um, lot of small things for the people who nothing was being done for automatically landed up happening because a community of a different socio-economic sector came in there. Um, Partially, of course, we are all responsible for that. Partially, it happens to us as much as we are part of it. Um, my question is more, my own attempt is more individualistic so that we are able to face the challenges that come to us more than the solutions. The solutions, when they happen, they are good. But talking about the problems, when we called it the questioning the answers, the idea is what is set is fine. How do we probe deeper to make a more important change? So both of you, in the last episode that Anant had spoken about values, he also kept on mentioning about the social impact of uh, what you guys are doing at this juncture. My perspective from the generation that I come from, uh, I'm only talking perspective of our generation, so hold your guns before you react to that. Um, is that we as a society have been strongly moving towards quote unquote selfish interests, each one for himself, more and more. How does one get out of that? How does one ensure that people of take home the right lessons.